Total War is going further into the past than it's ever gone before, back to the Bronze Age. A Total War saga. Troy will pit Greeks, Trojans and their allies against each other as they fight over the indomitable city and far beyond. There are gods, monsters and powerful heroes, but it remains a game grounded in history. A trademark application was spotted earlier in the year, kicking off a lot of speculation, but now we've seen it for ourselves. Greek myths are full of gods and monsters, and Homer's epic poems are no different. Creative Assembly Sophia wants to capture the mythical elements of the war, but this is still very much a historical Total War. The studio says it's trying to present the truth behind the myths. Possibly the biggest change to the real-time battles is the absence of horses. Aside from chariots and the occasional centaur, horses don't really feature in fights at all. Historically, they were status symbols or used for transportation.
The children of men, but as leaves that drop at the wind's breath.
It all started way back to basics. The good old days. Gathering, hunting, well, back to gathering. We switched from a cold to a cool place to settle, and I found the perfect spot for my people. At first, it was just a few walls to keep the bears out and the pigs in, but you know how it is. One district led to another, and it kinda snowballed. Now, the problem was, the neighbors thought the grass was greener on my side of the fence, but we saw them coming from a mile away. All I had to do was give the order. Their first mistake? Bringing infantry to a cavalry fight. Next, losing the high ground. Final mistake, not keeping up in the arms race. But eventually, peace prevailed and we came to an understanding. They surrendered, and I let them live. It turns out, we had a lot to learn from them, and together, we became more than the sum of our parts, a unique mix of cultures and beliefs. So yeah, I would say I left my mark on humankind, and I'm just getting started. But that's just my story.
Tell me, what will yours be?
As king of Egypt, you will have free reign to lead a people from the humble banks of the Nile River to the sprawling and wondrous Egypt we know today. You will command citizens to collect resources, build farms, mines, temples, state buildings, and monuments in your honor. Manage civics and social policies. If you can rise past the challenges posed by famine, drought, plagues, and uprisings, you may just be able to create some of the most monumental building projects ever attempted, including the Great Pyramids themselves. Seek to build an empire or amuse yourself tearing it down. Crusader Kings III is a grand medieval simulator where you are free to live out any plausible ruler fantasy that we could think of, but not without challenge. Says Pharaoh. Seeing its predecessor explode in popularity was very satisfying, especially considering that user-friendliness was never our primary goal. Now we have a chance to address an even larger audience. Crusader Kings III promises to lean into the RPG and dynastic shenanigans more than ever, going more granular as it allows you to craft your perfect family of sociopaths. The political and religious beliefs of your dynasty will be even more under your control as you plot your way through history, though the familiar concerns of conquest, diplomacy and putting up with your pesky council remain.
Real strategy requires...
I've just shot up a mob business and, under the laws of 1920s Chicago, it now belongs to me. Ownership is straightforward in Empire of Sin, and corporate takeovers are bloody. Within moments it's up and running again and I can get on with the real dirty work of this crooked management sim, making cash. My time with the game is fleeting and I have a criminal empire to forge, so I quickly start hiring some employees. Not bartenders or croupiers, but gangsters. The first is a muscular gentleman called Baby, and the other is Maria, who I am immediately informed has become an alcoholic. Gang members develop traits in and out of combat. If Maria hung around brothels instead of bars, she could get an STD, which could then spread to her partner and, if they broke up, to even more people. I'm not proud of it, says game director Brenda Romero when she explains how it can spread, but there were brothels and there were consequences. These traits and rashes have tangible ramifications, changing how effective gang members are when they're on the job. And while minions can be directly controlled and sent all over the city in real time, as well as being commanded in turn-based tactical fights, they also have their own lives, families and secrets.
Hey, he's just a step on my way to the top. But if it wasn't me taking him down, it'd be somebody else. Think you got what it takes?
The Empire!
Come and get it.
It's generally hard to be surprised in the real-time strategy genre these days, but you have to give the developers at Black Sea Studios credit, because they've created one of the most original and enjoyable real-time strategy games in recent years. With that said, it should also be noted that Knights of Honor is a game that's not for everyone. This is an incredibly deep medieval kingdom simulation, and it's the closest to actually being able to put you in the ruling seat of a feudal land. The idea in Knights of Honor is that you can take command of one of more than 100 different European countries from 3 different eras of European history. Your goal is to survive and expand. This means that you have to arrange marriages to ensure an heir for your ruling family, as well as improve your economy, make diplomatic and trade agreements with other countries, and assemble armies to stamp out rebels and wage war on your enemies. You can even dispatch members of your royal court to infiltrate enemy courts to spy. The end goal is to accumulate enough political and military might where you either win by score or are crowned the ruler of Europe. There's no question that Knights of Honor is a deeply ambitious game, but somehow it works, thanks to a somewhat elegant interface and some well-thought-out game mechanics. Basically, it's best to think of Knights of Honor as a continual time game, because it's not really a clickfest. The game plays at a generally steady pace, during which you'll spend a lot of time managing your kingdom
and the specific skills of your leaders. Or you can take direct control and jump right into the action, commanding your units in RTS-style battles. You decide which engagements warrant your personal attention, where your prowess can make the difference between victory and defeat. Fight across a variety of battlefields, including ruthless castle sieges for control of new provinces or the defense of your people. Knights of Honor II Sovereign is an exciting mix of grand strategy depth and real-time approachable gameplay. We hope you've enjoyed this first sneak peek into the visuals of our game, and can't wait to show you more about how you can be the Sovereign in coming months. Thank you.
The Stronghold games are a classic strategy franchise, part city, or castle, builder, part RTS as you build up your stronghold and defend your realm against invaders, or attack other strongholds, depending on the game. It's had its ups and downs, but generally has struggled to break away from the lofted legacy of the original games despite many valiant attempts. Firefly have announced the next iteration in the series at this year's E3 show in LA, Stronghold, Warlords. It's generally set in Asia, spanning a period from 3rd century BC China to the Mongol invasions of 1200, and is the first in the series to try and model the castle economies of the period, from samurai strongholds to the fortified cities you would find in China. One of the headline new features will be presence of AI warlords on the map, who will own and develop mini strongholds of their own, and each will possess unique traits and behaviors that can benefit you if you manage. Iron Harvest is a pretty exciting prospect. With its destructible environments, intimidating, tank-like behemoths, objectives and cover system, it reminds me of Company of Heroes, probably the best thing to happen to the genre during its post-90s slump. And if you miss building bases, there will be plenty of that, with the alpha introducing bunkers, fortifications and building upgrades too. Also included in the second alpha are 2 1v1 maps, a 2v2 map, around 20 units and 2 factions. The maps can be played in multiplayer and in skirmishes against the AI. The plan is to eventually give players 30 mechs to play with, on top of all the other units, like the infantry who scurry beneath them. You'll need to pre-order to take it for a spin right now.
But this time, we're vigilant, and we'll fight.
Evil Genius is a cult classic simulation game with a unique twist. Unfortunately, the series has been in an odd situation of the past decade. The first sequel ever planned for the game was cancelled when series creators Elixir Studios folded. Rebellion Developments picked up the IP shortly thereafter with the intention to make a full-blown sequel, but for years all we got out of Rebellion were some Facebook games with mixed reception from the community. Rebellion promised that Evil Genius 2 was officially in development in 2017, but things once again went quiet soon after. Apparently, this was just because the announcement was made quite early on in the game's development and Rebellion has been chipping away at the sequel all this time. Evil Genius 2, World Domination was finally unveiled as the PC gaming show kicked off, and the simulation game fans of the original know and love looked as great as ever. While that reveal trailer did not include any gameplay, I was able to see Evil Genius 2, World Domination in action behind closed doors at E3 2019. Thankfully. Gears Tactics was announced at E3 in 2018, but raised a few eyebrows when it didn't make an appearance at the following E3 in 2019. It looks like it's back on track, though, because at the Game Awards tonight it received a new trailer, Above, and a release date, April 28, 2020, set 12 years before Gears of War. At the start of the Locust War, Gears Tactics is a turn-based strategy along the lines of XCOM. It's our take on the classic turn-based strategy genre, with a character-driven story, faster, more aggressive gameplay, a customizable squad and equipment, and of course it wouldn't be a Gears game without massive boss battles, Coalition studio head Rod Ferguson said in 2018.
Don't go gentle. Bring it, shitheads.
Close one!
Enemy reinforcements.
Find your own ride, asshole.
Get out of squashing range.
Come and see what
My newest creation thinks of your little plan.
And State is strongly evocative of such titles as, for example, Jagged Alliance. As a result, we are dealing with a tactical turn-based strategy in which we manage a group of mercenaries with different personalities, abilities, and equipment. Our group is hired to perform numerous missions, such as acquisition and protection of valuable intelligence, breaking out hostages, or elimination of important strategic targets. The individual missions build an extensive, non-linear campaign. More than one playthrough is needed for the player to discover all its secrets. As our company sees more success, our employees become more experienced, and we can develop their abilities in the direction chosen by us. The list of our responsibilities includes recruiting, training, and equipping new mercenaries, as well as controlling them during combat. The combat system in End State is turn-based, with each character receiving a number of action points at the beginning of each turn. Our job is to apply various tactics for each situation, and make use. In terms of the mechanics, Ancient Cities for PC is similar to popular RTS games and simulators which require the player to manage a city. Consequently, the player needs to gather resources for construction of new buildings, take care of security-related issues through building defensive structures, as well as to provide adequate means and tools for everyone, so they can do their part for the group. Our ancestors were also familiar with supernatural phenomena, so a wise leader provides appropriate places for worshipping, or monuments allowing pleasing local gods. The unfriendly and wild environment makes gathering resources feel more like a survival game. Wild plants and animals in the area are eventually not enough to sustain a tribe that is constantly growing, and regular access to food can pose a problem at the beginning of one's adventure. Both flora and fauna are simulated as part of a dynamic ecosystem. If one's hunters kill every antelope in the area, the source of meat will disappear. When the season is harsh, the leader must be wise with distributing supplies, especially because they deteriorate over time. The Neolithic era was not free of radical climate changes and natural disasters. The leader has to decide whether to remain in warm huts during an unfriendly period or to abandon the base the tribe struggled to build in order to travel to a warmer zone. The decision between migration and staying in the base is always incredibly important, as a bad move can lead to the extinction of the player's subordinates. Desperados III, for having a gentle prompt appear on screen every so often reminding me of the last time I've saved my game. I'm not great at tactical games, so I'm taking great swaths of time in Desperados III to carefully put my characters in place and spring my traps, and when my plan goes awry, which has happened several times now, it's a real belash to start from my last save and reposition everyone all over again. I'm controlling Desperado mainstay Cooper in this demo, who has a trowable bowie knife, dual pistols, and the ability to toss a coin to use as a distraction or lure. I'm also controlling Cooper's new acquaintance, Doc McCoy, who has a medical bag he can place as a flashbang trap, just go with it, a poison syringe for stealth kills, and a sniper rifle for taking out distant targets. This revival of the Desperados series is being led by Mimimi Productions, developer of Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun, and it certainly shows. Fans of shadow tactics will feel right at home, the samurai and ninja being replaced by cowboys and 1850s New Mexico subbing in for Edo period Japan. I can't say from this demo if it's as hard as shadow tactics, which was notoriously difficult, but I do feel challenged, especially this early on in the game. I'm only controlling the 2 characters at the moment. I'm told at points players will control up to 5 characters at once, but I already feel like I've got my hands full. In Port Royale 4, players will control a colony as a newly implemented governor who is trying to grow their settlement into a busy trading mecca. Players will need to develop production chains to connect multiple islands and create trading routes along the Caribbean, completing specified tasks in order to earn both fame and essential buildings such as town buildings and ships. While building their trading empire, players will fight and conquer cities from rival nations while also hunting down their fleets. Pirates and privateers will also need to be dealt with in turn-based combat, with up to 10 ships fighting at a time. Players will be able to activate captain maneuvers that could potentially turn the tide of battle. The game will also include 4 single-player campaigns, following Spain, England, France, and the Netherlands during the 17th century. Over 60 Caribbean cities will be included, as well as 50 buildings, 25 production sites that are needed to produce rum and other luxuries, and 18 historically authentic ships. Players will also need to acquire licenses and building permits, as well as other items that will be unlocked with the player's growing reputation within their chosen nation.